Thank you, Ms. McCarthy, for being here. As usual, I'm still disappointed that you are alone on that panel, but thank you for being here. Ms. McCarthy, are you aware that the federal agencies are required under the Endangered Species Act to review any discretionary action they plan to undertake to see if it may affect endangered species or their critical habitat, and that if the agency determines that endangered species or their critical habitat may be affected, they must consult with Fish and Wildlife Service?
I am aware.
Did EPA consult with Fish and Wildlife on its activity on the Gold Key mine prior to the August 5th disaster?
EPA had no reason to consult with them because we did not plan to take action that would have discharged that amount of material into the creek.
So you assert that you did not anticipate the release. At least that's the email. And I'm glad, you two agencies weren't talking before. I'm glad we finally forced you to actually have some communication last night before you send this through. But your assertion is you did not anticipate the release that it would affect downstream endangered species, so therefore you didn't consult with Fish and Wildlife.
We were actually there, Mr. Chairman, because of the threat of that release and attempting to
You did not contact
that
them because you assert you didn't anticipate that. Now, is that what you and your staff
were
are
there
saying?
to prevent that type of release. That's exactly right.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said.
We were there to actually prevent a release because that is the reason why we were working with the state of Colorado and others at the site was to try to depressurize.
I understand. That's cool. I appreciate that. But the fact is you did not talk to Fish and Wildlife, even though that is the law that you're supposed to.
Only if we are taking action, as you indicated, sir.
No, I'm sorry. Ms. McCarthy, listen to this. In the final health and safety plan, emergency and rapid response services for the Gold Key site, prepared by the Environmental Restoration, that's your contractor, for EPA Region 8 and dated September 4th, 2014. It contains a section entitled Spills, Leaks, or Releases. And it states, locate the source and stop the flow if it can be done safely. The task order statement of work for EPA Region 8 prepared by the Environmental Restoration, this is dated July 25th, 2014. Conditions may exist that could result in a blowout of the blockages and cause a release of a large volume of contaminated mine water and sediment from inside the mine, which contains concentrated heavy metals. Clearly, these documents demonstrate that, in fact, you did not only anticipate the possibility of a release, but also of a major blowout. And yet, EPA conducted no consultations with Fish and Wildlife as is required under the Endangered Species Act. Now, are you aware that these activities are both criminal and civil penalties for knowingly violating the Endangered Species Act?
Sir, I'm really not trying to argue with you. I'm trying to explain that the statement you're reading indicates that we were worried about those conditions existing. We clearly stated it to the contractor so that there would be no actions taken that would have caused that release, but instead we were there to prevent that release.
That is wonderful, but ma'am, the fact is you were anticipating this type of thing happening. The law that you insist everyone else obey, the law says you have to contact Fish and Wildlife and consult with them. The fact is you did not do it, and you had over a year to accomplish that fact.
Sir, if I was there to take action to release this material, we wouldn't be standing here today. We were taking action in an attempt to prevent that release, knowing that it was a considerable risk to leave it as it was.
That is sweet, and I appreciate that, and I know you feel terrible about it, but the bottom line is your documents say you anticipated a potential major blowout. And the law says if you anticipate a major blowout, you have to contact Fish and Wildlife. And until last night, you did not contact Fish and Wildlife. Your agency did not do it. That's what the law requires. And there are criminal and civil penalties for violating that law, which you violated. Now, I don't really care what your goal was. It may be noble. It doesn't make a difference. You violated the law. A standard you make everyone else live by, you violated, and you're doing it with impunity. Now, are you aware that the San Juan River, starting in Farmington, New Mexico, there's a designated critical habitat for endangered fish that would be violation of the ESA for an agency to cause adverse modifications of the habitats by spilling millions of gallons of this water and these heavy metals? You realize that that area does exist?
I was not aware until you just said it, sir, no.
So have you or your agency discussed EPA's failure to consult with Fish and Wildlife Service prior to this hearing or any of our requests prior to this hearing?
We do not believe that we actually constituted a failure to actually notify concerning endangered species, because the actions we were taking were intended to stop a blowout. Clearly, there was a problem at the site. That's what we're looking at now to identify.
All right, I appreciate you making your own interpretation of the law, but that's not what the law requires, and that is not what the law says.
Okay, sir.
You violated the law, period. Now, the communications you said you made, oh, I'm sorry, I'm over. I apologize for that. I'll get another shot at this. Yield back.
Thank the gentleman.